Hello, world. Shane Duffy here.
Shane, I thought you were talking to Nate.
Well, Shane, I'm going to say you sound as stupid as ever.
What is up, Lighting World? You guys are my people. How is y'all doing today?
I'm doing fantastical. Great weather.
Man,
lots of calls.
Amazing last week. We got jobs on the calendar. Everyone's making money. This is always a good time of the year. But I was telling my guys, it's like the time of the year where y'all can work 10, 12 hours a day and make as much as possible because you're not going to want to do that when summertime hits. Not in South Texas. It gets hot as crap. Nate, how's your week been? How's life in your world?
Well, every day's awesome in my world, so I don't ever really have a bad day. So I'm really blessed with that. And last week was great. I was able to go to my lake house and work out of there. You guys may have saw it on the national news, or it made national news over and over. A guy flipped his boat doing 210 miles an hour, went about 150 feet in the air, spun over a bunch of times. Did you see that on the national TV? It was literally in front of my lake house. I mean, I watched it from my porch.
Wow.
So my lake house. So it was most craziest thing in the world. Guy walked out, broke his collarbone. So, thank God. I don't know how you crash a boat at 210 miles an hour and walk away, but he did. So that was pretty exciting. But yeah, everything's good, and just doing what I do, progressing. I got a bunch of meetings this week on a bunch of new products coming out from USA made products. So that's awesome. That always makes me super happy. And I'm going to go look at a job that we're going to be doing for the 5-day seminar next week, and that's exciting.
Hell yeah!
All right. Every time you say that, I feel like a USA chant. USA. All right.
I know. Where's our music? Where's our USA music?
Oh yeah, isn't there like a proud to be an American or something you could play?
Proud to be. We've gone like 5 seconds of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today, I mean, the kind of just to continue on our series. One, because it seems to go forever, with these series, but they're really good questions, and we've gotten really good feedback. People are getting value out of these questions, so I want to, continue with that. And I think we left off somewhere around number 20, 21 out of 40. So we're going to go over. I know some of these are a little technical. So
wait, what are we going over?
What kind of questions are these? Nate's the smartest question I know. So I'm going to bring the questions to the stage.
Hey, can I interrupt? What questions are we asking? What are these 40 questions for?
Yeah, if you didn't listen to the other podcast, well, you should go back. But the title of this is 40 questions to ask your lighting coach. So we made these questions for you guys, for anyone out there. If you're looking for a lighting coach, if you're looking to get mentored by someone in lighting, here are some questions that might just arm you. To ask them to see if they really know what they're talking about. These are questions that I did not have, but luckily we found Nate to mentor us, who is the smartest guy, when it comes to lighting. So these are for you guys. Reach out to us if you want a copy of this. Matt, is there a way for them to get a copy of this? Like a link to it or anything?
Absolutely not.
Right.
No, I don't. There's nothing to sign up. We don't have a link. We can make a link. I don't know if we're just giving this away for free. I mean, did Nate even authorize giving away another thing for free?
I don't know. Hey, if you have an interest in getting, the questions to this, just find us on Facebook, message us, Lighting Trade School, or the Illuminati Club Lounge, where we talk about lighting all day in the Facebook group. Well, not all day. We comment once a day. We all have businesses and money to make.
Yes. Hey, I think you skipped over. I believe we have a sponsor this episode. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
So, man, Matt, thank you for prompting me on everything, right? So, our sponsor is Lifetime Lighting Systems. If you guys have never gone to lifetimelightingsystems.com, check out their product. They've got, a range from advanced composite to metal to copper, black, white, green, brown. We've got a lot of different options, customizable loops, all of Nate's technology, all of his patents. I'm not going to get all into that, but basically for installers, well, they're the most, badass fixtures on the market. In my opinion, that's what we saw 100% of And that's why we let them sponsor this podcast. LifetimeLightingSystems.com.
Sweet.
Back to the questions. So at the top here, we got number 20, right? What the resettable circuit breaker has tripped in the transformer. What are the reasons this can happen?
Well, hold on. Now, obviously, we know Nate's going to answer. So if you're driving, I want you to pull over and make sure you're having a fresh cup of coffee. We don't want any accidents because this is technical.
Yeah, this is like one of those 5-minute long Nate answers. All these questions are. I record them and go to sleep to them at night because they put me right to sleep, and I let Nate sink into my subconscious mind.
I do the same.
All of my series
Nate.
launched.
I do the same thing. I record it too, and then I use headphones and I put them on my wife, and she goes from gab 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 to like, oh, okay, and then boom. I get up, wander around the house by myself. So I mean, obviously, the answers can be short, the answers can be long. So obviously, this is an important question because a circuit breaker trips for a reason, and the reason should be obviously it's compelling, and we should know why. It's there for a safety reason. So typically, resettable circuit breaker, which is very typical, they put a 25 amp circuit breaker into it, which, when you think about it, is literally crazy because at most you're servicing probably 12-2 wire or protecting 12-2 wire, which is good for 20 amps. A lot of times we're using 14-2, which is good for 15 amps, which is really 12 amps at 80%, 12 to 16 amps. And then for a lot of parts, we've got 18-2 hooked up now, which is good for 6 amps, right? So now you're protecting with a 25 amp circuit breaker. So some of the reasons it can trip or not trip, because there's two issues here, and I'm going to go into both issues because they're both, well, one issue is more important than the other issue is why is it tripped? It's going to trip because of a short, right? So I guess I should answer that question first.
So that's
why
the
does
short
it trip?
and easy one, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
so-
would it trip? Why would it not
Right.
trip? Longer answer.
Right. So it's going to trip because of a short. So if it's a 25 amp circuit breaker, they typically trip at 32 amps. They're very not precise, right? They're, typically China crap. They do it on thermal, which is heat, right? So it takes a long time to build up the heat, which they typically trip at 32 amps. So when they do trip, there's a short someplace. Now it could be an overload. So a homeowner could have came in and added 25 lights. Okay, now it trip, it does its job. So that's good. So then there's a troubleshooting process to find out why it tripped. I mean, could it be 1 out of 1,000,000 that the circuit breaker went bad? Yep, 1 out of 1,000,000. Other than that, there's a reason, and it's always a short or an overload. Now, the dangerous side of the resettable circuit breaker, and this is where I'm going to tell you it is goddamn dangerous. And it is scary when I talk about this as an electrician, that never in 1,000,000 years would we put a 25 amp circuit breaker on wire that's not rated for 25 amps in 1,000,000 years. Like, it's so fucking dangerous that if you had an inspector come to the job and they saw you have a 25 amp circuit breaker, they would literally red tag your job and make you take that transformer off the wall. And that's a fact, right? Because of the danger of an overload. So imagine getting a short generated in the field, 18-2, good for 6 amps at 80%. And you developed a short of 12 amp. So if you developed a short in the field, it could very easily be 12, 13, 14 amps, right? And then maybe you got a couple amps on it, a couple light bulbs. So now you've got 18, 20 amps on wire that's only good for 8 amps max. That wire is literally going to burn up, potentially catch on fire, and the circuit breaker will never, ever, ever trip. When we do our 5-day advanced seminars, I literally do this, create a short on 18-2, put it on a 25 amp circuit breaker, and literally the wire melts. And that's dangerous. So that's why I hate resettable circuit breakers, because they give you a false sense of security. So I hate
Let me
them,
ask you on that.
hate them.
When you were coming out, when you originally started Unique in 95 or whatever, and you had your transformers, did they have resettable circuit breakers back then? If so, why or why not?
No, we were the only company. I put replaceable fuses in, just like in the automobile industry. right? Everything is fuse protected, replaceable. So I'm not smarter than Ford or Chevy. So when you look at the fuse box on a car and you open up the fuse box, you're going to see 1 amp, 2 amp, 3 amp, 4 amp, 5 amp, 6 amp, 7 amp, 10 amp, 15, 20, so on and so forth. The reason they do that, they protect the wire per load, not wire size, because they don't want any type of a short being generated that doesn't trip the corresponding fuse. Okay. So they fuse it per load. So that's exactly what I did technically. For unique lighting, we put replaceable bus fuses in so you could protect per load and change them out with no false sense of security. So yeah.
So is that something you still need to worry about today? Is that just a AC 12-volt issue? How are your power supplies different, or are they different?
Yeah, no. So our power supplies have several layers of protection, right? They will have a resettable internal, right? Circuit breaker, if you will, but it automatically detects a short. They're highly sensitive and highly intelligent. So they can, any type of a short, regardless really of amperage, right? They're going to detect the short because it's an increase in amperage, an unexpected massive increase. They're going to turn themselves off until that short is removed. So that's one layer of protection. Two, they're going to be thermally protected. So let's say you were borderline, and I know we had this problem maybe with Shane in San Antonio, right? We're now in the summertime, maybe in the sand, that temperature can get to 130, 40 degrees. So that's a lot of radiant heat coming up. If you're borderline, right? Now because of the heat, there's thermal, right? And the internal circuit breaker can trip because technically that overloaded the transformer, so it protects it on a thermal basis. And then, of course, it can protect it just on a small overload and it knows the overload and turns itself off. So everything is self-protected. And why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
Are you laughing? I can see you
laughing.
I'm thinking to myself, we're still on question number 1, aren't we?
Who gives a shit? You know what? That actually, Nate says it so best, right? How much I'm like, Nate has the best delivery of the saying, "Who gives a shit?" He just puts
who gives a shit,
right? It's just
right.
I want a recording of that, and I need it, like, people have the easy button. I want a Nate Mullen "Who gives a shit" button.
Yeah, I really need to have that too.
But
right?
actually,
and go fuck yourself, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, when you think about this, if you don't want to know if you don't really want to know why the fuck a circuit breaker trips or doesn't fucking trip, the most important fucking thing to keep a house from burning down, go fuck yourself. Why are you even listening to a podcast if you don't even want to know the fucking answer? Right? That's what would crack me up, right? You don't want to listen
I use lifetime lighting systems, right? So like I don't care. I don't need to know because I know I'm buying
I'll let Nate do all the thinking.
That doesn't. Yeah, I let
Nate no. You do need to know, Shanester, right? Because let's say when you're going to go out and do a maintenance contract and they have halogen or they have an existing system, they have my old fucking system, Unique Lighting, which was the great system, right? Now you're going to go out there and do a service call and you're going to take halogen out and put LEDs in, and they had an 1120, which had a 10 amp fuse. Mm-hmm. So now you're sitting there reducing the load 10 to 1. So now the load goes from 10 fucking amps to 1 amp. And you don't understand the math, and now you leave a 10 amp fuse in it because you didn't fuse per load, you burn the fucking house down. You're going to wish you paid attention to the goddamn podcast. That's a fucking fact. So you have to fuse per load. So that's when you take the amp probe, you diagnose it, you check that you only have a 2 amp load, and you put a 2 amp fuse in it. Now you protect the homeowner from burning their house down. God forbid that happen, but it does happen.
That's a great tagline. That's why you listen to the fucking podcast. Well,
right.
I don't care if we're still on the same question. I want to ask a question on that little rant. I'm out there. I'm converting. He's on a, whatever it was, 960, 1120, whatever the hell you said. They had halogen. I'm now replacing everything with LED.
Yep.
They have inline fuses in the middle of the yard. Don't really care about them. I can cut them out, put the wire together. Do I have to do anything? Can I leave it as is?
So if you have inline fuses, so I would do, I mean, obviously there's several things I would do. One, I would take the fucking AC magnetic transformer off the wall, throw it away, and put a proper power driver on. That being said, right, does the transformer have replaceable fuse, or does it have a thermal circuit breaker like we've talked about? Now, right, and then I would deal with that issue. Fusing in the field, specifically to your question, there's typically going to be 15 amp fuses, which will do 0 as far as protection. So you'd be smart, because it already has the fuse in line, you'd be smarter to amp probe the load right then and there. And if it said 2 amp, put a 2 amp fuse in it, or put a 3 amp fuse in it. And
But
now
does it
you've got
matter? I mean, if you leave
Well,
it,
now-
it doesn't hurt, right?
Well, it doesn't do anything. It does 0. Doesn't hurt, doesn't help. But if you've got those AC magnetic transformers that have the thermal resettable breaker in it, which unless they were my transformer at Unique Lighting, they will have a resettable breaker, which are a joke, right? So now you would at least, why not, put an appropriate fuse in it. Get an amp probe, find out what the ampacity is, the current, being delivered, and put a fuse on it. Right, now you got the best of everything. Now at least if you don't replace the transformer, you got fuse protection.
So if I'm doing a maintenance job or whatever, on something that's not mine, and I find 1 or 2 fixtures or 3 fixtures off, it might not even be an issue with anything besides an inline fuse that needs to be replaced. Correct?
For troubleshooting, that was the question.
Yeah.
It could be an inline fuse. Now, typically, if they were probably trained by us at a Unique university, I don't think there was one company, not one, that ever promoted fusing like I did. Because, obviously my background's electrical, and we fuse protected everything with, circuit breakers, obviously all over the goddamn place,
Sure.
right? Because of so many fires that are always happening because of faulty wiring. So I promoted fusing, secondary fusing, and all the IntelliHubs and, all the different, fusing J boxes that we had. So if it was a Unique Lighting system install, yeah, there'd be fuses in there.
Got it.
So I semi know that, right? Because I've heard you say it 10 times. I could never regurgitate it the way Nate says it. I won't say never, but I know that's an issue and that can happen. But Nate, would you say, as a cheat sheet, if you're buying products from Lifetime Lighting Systems, we can always ask you and make sure we're not going to mess something up? Would that be a true statement?
Well, yeah. I mean, I would think that's all 3 of us here. You can always ask us to make sure you're doing things that are capable, smart, safe, right, to prevent future problems, let alone burn someone's fucking home down, right? I mean, this is electricity. I mean, just because it's low voltage doesn't mean that, fires don't happen. Look at how many fires happen. Well, we've seen in our life, fires on the side of the road from a vehicle catching fire because there was a short that developed. Right? Shorts are shorts, melting down wires are melting down wires. So I'm super sensitive about protection because of my background for electrical, right? And it really pisses me off when these other fucking manufacturers tell you, don't worry about it, it's low voltage, nothing fucking matters. They can go fuck themselves as far as doing a disservice in this industry. And you think about doing a disservice to you, right? Especially when you get into like 120 volt bistro lighting, they tell you, yeah, put them up in, no problem, nothing matters. God damn it, it's bad for our industry to do things unsafe. So
I don't think folks intentionally lie. I think folks just don't know what they.
No, I think they intentionally lie, and it doesn't matter to me after the fact whether they intentionally lie or they're ignorant on a subject and they're promoting like they're an expert on the subject. Yeah, that's when it pisses me off. That's when they're doing a disservice to our industry. So anyway.
I brought this, photo in, if y'all can see that good. That was just, we were talking about converting mercury vapes to LED. And that is we literally just did that, I don't know, last month or something. So good picture, but we replaced all the power supplies and got rid of all those old AC power supplies.
Nice.
So that is such a great photo, and the contrast between that eerie, scary Halloween.
I know. Right? I wish I took a
fucking contrast.
The fancy camera. That's iPhone.
So you and this, Shane and Matt, I started started playing with outdoor lighting in the early 1980s, and it was mercury vapor, right? Like that. And, that's all I knew. And I thought it was cool looking. And, you look back on it, it was like the ugliest shit in the world, right? Pathetic.
Yeah. Shane, don't post that picture you just showed us. It's before and after is messed up.
I know. Yeah, that's the way Company Cam has it. Yeah. it is not the opposite way.
Well, Shane, you could say this is how your competition does it. They took a great lighting job, and that's
Take a
the after
perfectly
effect.
good-looking job.
Right. And that's what they did.
Oh man.
All right. Next question, Nate Dog, which maybe is kind of along the same answer. Why is a resettable circuit board dangerous? Which you kind of just answered, right? Because if it doesn't trip or reset, well, then you can melt stuff down. Does that kind of sum up what you were saying?
Before I say yes, what is a circuit board?
Why is a resettable circuit board dangerous? I
What
don't
is
know.
a
It's your
circuit board?
question.
No, I don't. Never would have said circuit board.
Well, I mean, we were having, I think this was cocktails at the Huge. We had people coming in and out. Lots
So
of
I
circuit. And maybe we wrote the wrong word down. I'm sure it's breaker. I think he meant breaker.
Yeah, well, a breaker probably was, well, it would be resettable circuit breaker probably up on the top. So it could have been it could have been down the lines of, well, I don't know what the hell it could have been down the lines of. I was going to say maybe it was a timer, maybe it was some type of electronic, but I would tell you the reason, not knowing what we were talking about over cocktails, the reason I don't like integrating circuit boards or certain different things into an AC magnetic transformer is they generate a lot of heat. They're ovens. So whenever you have components, there's two things that kill circuitry at the very minimum, but the two most things that kill it, right? Fast speed is water intrusion and heat. They hate heat. Just look at all your stereo equipment, direct TV box, all these different, there's gaps of air between them because they generate so much heat. Well, that heat is just magnified inside of an AC magnetic transformer. They get extremely hot. They're in stainless steel cases. They're like 150, 60 degrees in there. Kills the electronics. So don't exactly know what the cocktails were, but heat kills everything.
Is that why you don't like to put the dusk to dawn timer built into your wall mountable power kits?
Yeah, and I feel that's probably where the thing went is, that's why I don't like the whether it be any type of astronomical, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, electronic device that goes into there, because the heat kills them all. It got so bad at Unique Lighting that I refused and I quit selling anything that had to do with electronics. We literally took back every one. So we quit selling them. Just go buy it at Home Depot. I don't give a shit. So now it is like remove the capability. So I don't even allow you to put in type of a timer device inside the transformer because it's just a massive fail point. So now everything goes on the auxiliary on the outside, like in it with a protected in-use cover. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Much simpler. The teach and fix, by the way. So, Matt, can you bring the questions back up?
Oh, sure, buddy.
Hey, thanks. What is the NEC, which is National Electric Code on how deep to bury wire?
You guys know that?
What, 6 inches, right? First 6 inches is our playground. It's kind of like I try to describe to my guys.
Well, I know electrical is 18 inches, so low voltage. I mean, I know we don't go 6 inches deep. I believe the code is more like 2 inches or 4 inches. But I don't know the answer to that.
So why don't you say it like this? I'm more than likely wrong because I don't know the answer.
Well, that's kind of exactly what I said. But if you want me to say it exactly like that,
all I heard is we don't go 6 inches.
All right. So first of all, National NEC really stands for Nate's Electrical Code, just to clarify that. Now, so there's two answers to this. National Electrical Code, the NEC, is 6 inches. Mac, you are right. Shane, you are, well, I don't know what you are. So yeah, it is 6 inches. 18 inches, Shane. 18 inches has to do with higher voltage. It depends if it's under concrete or whatever, but high voltage is anywhere from 18 inches to 24 inches, okay? Depending on what it is and so on and so forth. So it's 6 inches. Nate's electric code is okay to be 2 inches, right? And I mean, there's no difference when you think about what the fuck kind of protection do you have at 6 inches? Really none, because you're going to stab a shovel in the ground at 6 inches, right? So there's no protection there. It's actually really stupid. So we found out, just so you guys know, right, is the shallower you go a couple inches, it's easier to grab that fucking wire, shake it, bring it up above the soil, and now it's exposed, and now let the landscaper aggressively put a shovel in the ground. That's why I like 2 inches.
Got it. So you're saying Nate's electrical code is 2 inches, or
Right.
the national electric code is 6 inches.
Correct.
So you could say that I was right.
Yeah, I guess you are right.
That's the natural electric.
All right. Well, going off of that, Matt, I mean, the national electric code then is 6 inches. Why do you go 6 inches?
No, of course not.
Does anyone go 6 inches?
Well, I mean, sometimes I go 6 inches, right? I always say, like, hey, that first 6 inches is my playground, right? Sprinklers are lower than us. Line voltage is lower than us. Fiber optics supposed to be lower than that. So in those first 6 inches should be nothing besides low voltage, right? Am I correct in that statement, Nate?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Now, I guess getting back to Shane's question, why would we only go 6 inches? That's our playground. I love that terminology, Matt. It's a really good answer. Now, where would we go deeper than 6 inches? Well, if you aerate the grass, which you do back east a lot, they go typically down 6, 7 inches. So maybe through grass, you got to go down 8 or 9. Got it. Maybe they use these edgers along curbs and sidewalks and different things that have blades on them. Obviously, if you only went down 2 inches, they would cut into the wire because those fucking things go down 2 inches. So you have to know, I guess, what the landscapers do to protect the wire and how they aggressively do stuff. But other than that, yeah, we like to go down shallow. It's faster. And the other reason we started doing it really was the more shallow you go, the less disruption that you do to the yard as far as destroying it. The deeper you go, you destroy the yard.
Yeah, and
So
what I do is near where I see those hard edges, or people are what's it called when they don't use mulch bed, but they edge it, with just a shovel every year, like they cut out that little circle of grass around their trees. I still go about 2 inches. I just add like a 8-inch piece of conduit in that spot because I know they're going to be stabbing a shovel there when they're hard edging it.
Yep, I've definitely done that. In mulch beds where they commonly replant, we'll put just conduit or something to protect it. Nate, I never asked the customer, right, if they edge. Certainly we're in a lot of really nice properties where they really manicured their yard, so it'd probably be a no-brainer that they edge. But I've also never had an edger cut a wire. Not yet, at least. I'm sure at some point it'll happen. And I don't go 6 inches. Is that something installers should be asking? Hey, do they edge the yard? Just so you
kind
get
of
a
know.
better plan. I mean, you can look and see, right? But like,
Yeah.
I still don't go 6 inches. When I see that.
Yeah, but if you see they edge along their driveway, are you right up against their driveway? I mean, because they only edge the edges.
Yeah.
So I think what's happened is this time
in the trimming area.
Right.
So, you go back 20 years ago, people had those, edgers, the little saw blades on them or whatever. Now, fast forward to today, they're weed whacking everything. They weed whack the edges and stuff.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
much faster.
But so much faster. But I think, nobody aerates there in California. So I think that you have to understand your area, which where they aerate. I know back east, they aerate different areas a lot. So I think you get to know your area, what the landscapers do. But I wanted to mention this real quick. I like the idea that you guys sleeve for protection in those flower bed areas, knowing that maintenance come and every year it's a typical thing. Super smart. The other thing is, and matter of fact, I put an order today of 5,000 feet for a job that there's a thing that we can get called armored cable. So if you're into highly maintenance areas with gardeners or crazy, this situation was an HOA to where it protects it from gardeners, and then it protects it from rodents, squirrels, obviously squirrels, rats, mice, right? Whatever type of rodents you may or may not have. Super, super good, right? Isn't that expensive in the big picture? And obviously you get an upgrade for it. So armored cables, pretty cool.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, as you know, we just closed. Well, when I say we, I mean our Glow Geeks Orange County location just got an HOA. It's a near 6-figure install, and we did that armored wire. I guess you guys have what is it? Groundhogs and stuff like that might chew wire. It's not an issue in San Antonio, but where it is an issue, yeah, the armored cable is pretty cool.
Well, let me mention this to everybody in the audience, and people don't realize this, to where it's getting more and more relevant across the United States, to where, and I'll just use my backyard. Southern California, we have a lot of gophers and rats and squirrels, right? A lot of rodents. Well, they have more and more been attacking and eating the wire than they did, say, 10, 15 years ago. And that's because China does what China fucking does. They all of a sudden decided to put soy in as a filler into landscape lighting wire. And they also do it in the wiring harnesses of vehicles. The majority of wiring harnesses are built by China with soy-filled insulation, which attracts the rats, the squirrels, the rodents, and they love to fucking go eat it, right? So our wire, just so you know, to promote my wire, is soy-free and gluten-free for all those fucking vegetarians out there. So anyway, that's a problem. Gluten's not a vegetarian?
Yeah, but I like the statement until you added the vegetarian aspect.
No, okay. Well, I didn't know.
That's all right.
Anyway, but it is good. That's what we're starting to sell more and more armored cable because of the rodents are just attacking wire now more.
It's interesting, for sure.
All right. Next question.
One more
question.
Yeah.
Uno más. All right.
No,
I can't bring the questions back up. I don't know why.
They're up.
Matt took away my abilities here.
You're in timeout.
I think we'll kind of semi-skip this question, just 10-second answer, because Nate, you kind of answered this. When I change my halogen lamps out to LEDs, what are my concerns?
Yeah, I would say he just answered that, right?
I mean,
I kind of answered that, but all right. Well, the other thing is obviously I mentioned that, you need to fuse protect it, because it's a 10-to-1 ratio. You're going to go from 10 amps to 1 amp. So you obviously got to protect the wire now. Is the other thing is replace the transformer. I mean, you're doing an upgrade, right? At least present to the homeowner that you want to be able to put a power supply onto it, because a power supply is what, especially a DC power supply, that's what the LEDs require. They require a DC power supply. You eliminate the volt amps. They're more stable. They'll live longer. They're happier. You're getting an upgrade. So you're doing the homeowner at least a disservice if you don't offer it to them as an upgrade, right? So I would try to upgrade a DC power supply versus the old stainless steel magnetic transformer on the wall. And then you got the protection that you need.
Got it. All right. 10 seconds.
Awesome.
Last question. I think all of us can probably chime in on this because we've probably all made mistakes. What are your top 5 problems that you incurred installing when you first started landscape lighting and you changed because of those issues? What are your top 5 problems you incurred installing your first jobs?
Gonna go over one each, maybe. I'll talk about one that's still driving me nuts to this day, and it's tree brackets on trees. I was ordering from Lifetime Lighting Systems, and Nate would always send these tree brackets, which I loved, and he would send this ridiculous looking screws that weren't really screws, and didn't understand them. There was no instructions, and I was like, well, this is stupid. So we would just use, like deck screws, something safe, wasn't gonna hurt the trees and everything. And we would, obviously we would try to back them off a little bit to keep them a little standout, but in the course of real life, guys would, zip them right to the tree. And it does not take long for that tree, some less than a year, some a year or two, where now we're out there, grinding out our mistakes from the past and having to switch the tree mount. So that is definitely one huge mistake that I've made that I've learned from. And now I do use those silly little screws that aren't really screws that Nate sends on every single one.
Matt, now I know why you ordered 30 tree brackets last week.
Yeah, another 30's coming in, Nate. Another 30's getting requested, buddy.
I was just wondering, why the fuck do you need fucking 30 tree brackets?
Yes, sir. I do need to put another order in for another 30, by the way.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
If only would have
nice.
that late, Nate, save you the time, money, and energy doing those, huh?
Well, I guess this is really a good point because this happens.
I'm guilty of that too. That's
Well,
a good
this happened. This happens to probably all of us a lot now. I mean, certainly more to me, maybe just because of longevity. There's a reason I do everything. So if I ever send you something weird like this weirdo fucking screw, and you're like, what the fuck is this screw for? Pick up the phone and ask. I just don't fucking arbitrarily throw weird fucking screws in there for no reason.
I mean, I've gotten some packages from you, some arbitrary weird shit.
No, there's no. That's a blow up doll that I did for you because it was your birthday. For God's sakes, okay. So that was for a reason. There's a reason.
Oh, speaking of weird stuff, I never got those glasses you said you sent me.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Teardrop.
I will check on that. I'll just make a note right now. No, Shane hey Shane, how bad are those glasses? You got them there handy? Show them to Matt. You got them there handy? Are they on your bar?
No, but I could have it in 20 seconds.
Did you get two boxes full of them? Did you get 2 boxes or?
I got 2 glasses.
Matt, I would check with the Black Diamond guys. I mean, these are highly collectible glasses. Show them, Matt, or show them, Shane.
Oh wait, well, I'll take 20 seconds and I'll go get it.
Okay, and then I'll talk about. I mean, obviously, when you take the 20 seconds. So I'm going to get back to one of my things was burying the wires. So we used to go deep back in the day. We would go down 12 inches, 16 inches, right? Because we thought the further down we went, the more protection we got. And well, the fact of the matter is, I would always get these cut wires because, landscapers are taking shovels, aggressively digging down to replant a tree or plant flower, whatever the fuck it was.
Sure.
So now they're aggressively hitting it. So then it was finally after a year or two, it was like, you know what? Fuck this. Let's just go down a couple inches. Well, the shallower I went, a couple inches, right? The less cut wires we had because you could just shake the wire up. And then we were very proactive on as-built and proactive in telling the homeowner where we are only going shallow, right? Because when you only go down a couple inches, maybe the mulch deteriorates or heavy rain and exposes some wire. So now if the wire is exposed because of those conditions, the homeowner's not calling up going, the fucking wire's fucking, it's all come up. I see the wire. It's really ugly. You've already set in motion of why it would happen. Right. But that was a big negative. That was challenging for a while. Okay. Yep. Shane, you're up with look at that. Oh my God. It's got, you see the bullet? That is the actual bullet. Right.
Oh, I'm sure Chris and Rich saw that. I'm like, yoink.
Yeah.
So there's the matching set there.
Oh, nice.
So
for those that are just listening, can you describe, Shane, what you're holding?
So it's some glasses that Nate gave me. You buy fixtures from Nate and he sends you cool shit. So it says Donald Trump, President of the United States, Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2025.
And it's got
it has a bullet into the glass. That's what makes that glass so badass.
Super cool.
Super cool.
All right, Shane, share your one huge, I guess it wouldn't.
So I think a lot of people can probably relate to mine, but when I read that, the immediate first thing that popped in my head was just documentation post install. Making an as-built, documenting where fixtures are, how we ran the wire, using more hub boxes and home boxes to keep the connections in, just so we go back, we can diagnose it way faster. I would say early on, we didn't do that, or we did a really crummy job of it. We weren't consistent with it, and now we're very consistent with it. Awesome. Something you learn when you go back a couple years later and you did not do. I mean, you immediately know how much of a pain in the butt it is to not have anything documented.
True statement.
Call that a light mirror.
Now on a small job, right? You only got 15 fixtures or something. I mean, you can kind of guess where the wire would go, so it's less important. But
that's a little delayed laugh right there, Matt.
I think I was muted. I had to unmute my laugh.
All right, so I have another one to where, in the very beginning, I thought it was super tricky and super smart because my background's electrical and we would use different wattages, Kelvin temperatures, and beam spreads. So I took that thought process to the landscape lighting world And it was truly a nightmare for maintenance. Designs were hard because when you design something that you thought you needed an 18-degree beam spread because of whatever reason, when you go back 6 months later and that thing that you lit up that day was a big bush and the 18-degree beam spread was the worst choice in the history of the world. And then different wattages. I just hated everything about it. And then I went to basically same wattage light bulb, 4 watt, 2 different beam spreads, 3660. It simplified my design, simplified my maintenance. I could leave the homeowner extra light bulbs. They could replace light bulbs so they didn't go to Home Depot and put in extra wattage lamps or whatever. So anyway, so simplifying my use of beam spreads and wattages, right, was really, and I think I've talked about in the podcast where it's instrumental in really showcasing my placement ability to produce a good lighting portrait.
Yeah. Sweet.
I think we could probably all say, Matt, I think you would agree. I don't necessarily know if I would call it a problem that I incurred, but when I go and look at jobs that I installed, like pre-learning design from Nate, oh my gosh, they're just horrible. Just looking at them, my pre-Nate jobs, is what I call them, prenatals. They
prenatals. Oh my god.
They're so dumb.
Well,
yeah, I think we can all get that.
Yes,
I couldn't help myself.
Don't support that.
All right, either, but I couldn't help myself.
Well, I think that is a right. All right.
I'm always going to end. This is how I end the shows. Just so you know, I got to get going. Got to end it fast.
When Nate
the most inappropriate thing.
Yeah, there it is.
Just be inappropriate, and the show is over. All right, that is our cue, Matt.
All right.
All right.
Later,
check out Lifetime Lighting Systems. We'll see you guys. Peace.